But it might happen. Hey, Inspire Tribe, my fellow freedom lovers. So John Nolan here. Thank you so much for tuning in. It is Monday, November 25th, 2024. We're healthy, we're wealthy, we're whole, we're free. That's the mantra of the Inspired Livestream. Thank you for joining us on X, Rumble, and YouTube. Thank you for being with us here in the live chat. It's wonderful to see you all. Some new friends that have just recently joined us, and some original people in our tribe, and that's always wonderful. So welcome to everyone who's new. All righty, my friends, this is an emergency broadcast, and I would love for you to stick around until the end so you see that we did not see or haven't seen or are not being shown the true picture of what is really going on, and what's going on is much more important and actually much more inspiring. So let's look at the emergencies as they are presented to the world today. For example, I'm just looking at a few headlines today as to what's going on, and we're going to pick up on the energy too. NATO considers preemptive strikes on Russia. The United Kingdom and France in talks to deploy troops to Ukraine. U.S. officials discussed giving nuclear weapons to Ukraine. Yes. Admiral Rob Bauer, chairman of the NATO Military Committee, calls on businesses in the bloc to prepare for wartime scenario. Authorities in Germany are drawing up plans to use metro stations as air raid shelters. So there are two things that have been going on for a while now in the media. The World War III scenario and the nuclear word. Now, the messaging in terms of how much this is being pushed out on all levels reminds me of weapons of mass destruction. Saddam, remember that? Those are the big ones. Osama bin Laden, Al-Qaeda after 9/11. I mean, you had these big trigger words, and of course, the entire COVID scenario. So these are just some of the emergencies as they're being presented to the world. We have the Israel and Palestine, the Gaza scenario. We have Iran in the mix. We have China and South Korea. We have, I mean, a million little potential big conflicts. Now, let's look at this from a little bit of a different perspective. Let's ask a few important questions. What's really going on, okay? Let's do this together. It appears that tensions are rising and that greater and greater conflicts are erupting between the nations and power players of the world. That's what it appears like. The words World War III and nuclear have been used over and over again in the last months. In the conventional view, the same dynamic as always seems to be playing out. The question is, what is the real emergency? And now we have to look from a broader perspective. What is really going on? There is another way to look at this. All of these aggressions, conflicts, and tensions are not the action, but the reaction to an emergent sea. What is the emergent sea? It is an emerging, rising consciousness. I'm going to take this off a little bit here. what people have been calling this awakening, and it's such an overused word that it sort of has now mixed feelings to it, but a spiritual awakening, or what has been called the truth vibrations. The human family, the spark within the human family, waking up, realizing, questioning, looking, seeking, expanding. Now, what does that have to do with World War III, Ukraine, Israel, and all of this? I want to show you a map, okay, that was created, or not created, but actually measured by consciousness researchers. Let me show you something here. This is the LOC, level of consciousness timeline. And before we look at this timeline in full, I want to remind you something. This was the map that was created by the consciousness researcher, Dr. Hawkins, okay? And as you can see, this is a map from 0 to 1,000, 0 being the lowest level of consciousness, 1,000 being the highest. So as you can see in sort of the red block down there from 0 to 75, it's the survival paradigm that extends into emotions like fear, desire, anger. And then there is this famous neutrality point, or let's say a point where destructive consciousness starts shifting over into constructive consciousness, and that is the 200 line, approximately 200. So anything above 200, if you want to call it that, is towards the positive spectrum of human consciousness. So now think of this map here as we go back to this one here. So I want to show you something. These were the levels of consciousness measured, the averages. And because this was done from a US standpoint, because the researchers are here, you can see the US level of consciousness, the average, and the average of the world. Now, the average of the world would naturally be lower because you would have countries that have a lot of conflicts in them, that have had generational conflicts or extreme poverty or sickness, or so you the of course a nation that is as prosperous as the United States, just because of that prosperity and a certain level of comfort, it allows people to raise their consciousness easier than when you are in despair and sickness. But if you look at the year 2019, November of 2019, before the big bullshit campaign started, the average level of consciousness was at its highest in the US and also worldwide. So you had a world that had where humanity had surpassed this famous level of 200 on average and higher, which means that we were dealing with a level of consciousness around courage, neutrality, somewhere in there. This is the sort of the springboard for more enlightened era. This is the springboard for positive creativity, for all of those things. Now, in late 2019, we were here. We were where this red arrow is. And then you can see what happened to the level of consciousness. If you look at April of 2020, the lowest, 100. So if you are at 100, you are at fear, grief, desire, anger. These are destructive. As what are these views of life that happen? Tragic, frightening, disappointing. What is the God view? Denying, punitive. What is the process? Withdrawal, enslavement, aggression. And we've seen all these emotions and all these states very much play out during 2020. So then we move forward, and you could see that after this big downfall of consciousness, because of the fear, the greatest and biggest, loudest, and most psychopathic fear campaign in human history, the 2020 campaign, you had this giant dip, and then it started rising again. And then you can see how it started rising to the levels almost, if you look at 2021, almost getting close to where it was before the big bullshit campaign, the COVID campaign. And this map extends to the year 2022. Now, what I am proposing is, and we will look at the numbers that we can receive from our friends, is that we are currently, or have been, in a phase of, it's sort of like a stock market where you have a constant push and pull. And I think it's like a constant bull and bear. I think we have been, especially since 2022, rising. The average level of consciousness is rising again, very much so. And I think what is the problem, that all these big events, you know, the new Middle East war, the Ukraine conflict, power outages, and tornadoes and hurricanes, natural, you know, quote unquote natural events, all the things that they're throwing at us are not having the effects that they want to. So yes, I think there is a dip, but then it just bounces back and keeps moving up. I think we are on an upward spiral trajectory when it comes to consciousness. Now, we have to look at what is the emergent C. You are the emergent C. You are the emerging consciousness. And not just you who are watching, but the community at large in the world that is not it's not that they are dispassionate or not empathetic with the crises of the world, but you and most of us, we do not allow it to bring down our consciousness for longer periods of time. Yes, we can get angry for a moment. Yes, we can get sad for a while. Yes, we can feel that, and that is good. But it bounces usually right back, and then it keeps rising. And that's what's happening. So these insane psychopaths are doing what the only thing that they know how to do is double down and try to throw more fear, more panic, more threats at us, and if necessary, more conflicts. Now, here's what happens after a certain level of consciousness is reached. And I want to go back to that scale with you. And now I'm going to make some very, very bold assumptions with you all, okay? So once human beings move into this level up here in the spiritual paradigm, if you will, reason, love, joy, peace, even enlightenment, all the way up there in the very top is absolute truth, by the way. So once we're here, you see when you go to the blue and the purple levels, abstraction, revelation, transfiguration, illumination, these processes, you can already see in reason and integrity you have transcendence. These are important words. Why? Because we're beginning to feel our transcending powers as this level of consciousness rises. Now, what does that also mean for the world? Well, I'm going to assume that in the past, human beings who had a certain level of consciousness, who had reached it, were able, whether they were fully aware or not, were able to maybe even disable conflicts, disable weapon system, disable systems of mass destruction. We have that ability because consciousness ultimately dictates everything else. So we have that ability. When the average rises high enough, certain things cannot happen any longer on the scale that they have been. Now, if you consider that 2019 had the highest average level of consciousness, at the same time, you need to also consider that the knowledge necessarily about the structures of the world, the truth as to the power structures wasn't necessarily there. Now we have a much more potent and powerful combination. There is a streetwiseness. There's more people are streetwise than they've ever been. More people have done deep research and study than ever before. At the same time, because of this truth and allowing for the healing process to take place, their consciousness is also higher. So this is true empowerment. We're getting into very, very powerful regions here. So Their games that they're playing are reactions. They're not in charge any longer. Consciousness is regaining, higher consciousness is regaining control slowly but surely, and they're reacting more and more and more. And yes, they're going to throw things out, and they're going to continue to try this. But right now, it's almost like throwing, kind of throwing mud on the wall and just seeing what sticks. And not a lot of the things stick any longer. I see that in sort of in my some of the average conversations when we're not talking about these things, but we're somewhere out in regular places, restaurants or whatever. I see something that sort of is hopeful, where there's a calmness in people that shouldn't be there considering everything that's going on, but there is a calmness in people, and that is a good thing. So we are literally, my friends, this is what we literally are. We're literally the glitch that we want to see in the Matrix. I did this, what we call Sunday sermon yesterday, on Locals. Jokingly, we call it a sermon, but it's this audio thing that we do on Locals, almost like a little bit of a radio transmission in our Inspired community. And this thing came through like, be the glitch. Obviously, I later realized we're not the first people who thought of it, but we're literally the glitches in the Matrix. So my wife, the genius that she is, she said, oh, I would love to have this on a shirt. So she created this. We have shirts on our way. If you want to be the glitch in the Matrix, check out the link in the video description. But this is what we're beginning to be. Literally glitches in the Matrix. Now, what happens if you have 2, 3, 4, 7, 8, 15, a million glitches? And that's what's beginning to happen. So, you know me, I keep my feet on the ground. I like to walk balanced. I'm not looking through the rose-colored glasses here. But what I am sensing from the rising consciousness levels is that the powers that want to remain are reacting to you and me and everyone else in the world who is not giving in to their fear and their bullshit and their violence and their crap that they're throwing at the human family, their poison, their radiation, everything that they try. And the higher we rise, the more we disable their abilities to do what they want to be doing all the time. It doesn't mean it doesn't require physical action as well. It does, but it has to be directed from the proper level of consciousness. So I want to look at with you together, because this is so important. One more time here. Let's look a little bit closer at this one more time. Once you move above courage into neutrality, willingness, acceptance, this is the healing journey. This happens when the spirit begins to heal. Happens when the psyche begins to heal within us. Now look at what your predominant emotional state becomes. Trust, optimism, forgiveness. Extremely powerful, harmonious, hopeful, satisfactory. That's how you look at life. Your God view, merciful, inspiring, enabling. The process is release, intention, and transcendence. And so this is where a lot of people are almost through and moving up into more wisdom, reason, and love. And this is, I'm talking about averages here. So if you raise your consciousness to a level of 500 or 550, you are literally balancing out for some of the folks that stay very low down there. And the more people that pay attention to that, the higher the average is, the better it is for everyone. After we reach a certain average of consciousness, certain things can no longer transpire in this realm. It's just against the law. I can't help it. And that's a good thing. So this is what we're seeing. And this is also why we have been encouraging you all to give, to use this support system from our friends at FLFE, because this is what their entire work is based on, helping to provide the optimal conditions for human consciousness to rise. So the link's in the description for your free trial for FLFE. It creates a high consciousness field around you. No AI, no bullshit. Just check out the link or go to highconsciousnessfield.com. But this is the emergent seed, the emergent consciousness. So when they try to tell you that the emergencies of the world are external event, it's not the truth. Think about it too. What quarrel do you have with another nation or the people of another nation? What real reasons are there today to have these conflicts and wars? Are we in need of resources? No. We have that kind of figured out. Not in a good way yet, but we have it figured out. Are we really, are the nations that are conflicting with each other, could they resolve this peaceably? Yes. We are not at war, people with people. Power elites are at war with each other or having turf wars, but that has nothing to do with the people of the world. I see more willingness for harmony and peace in people, and I see more acceptance of differences and different cultures than I've ever seen before, actually. Yes, there is some radicalism here and there, but for the most part, people are realizing war is never the path. And so I do not believe that the Russian people want war. I do not believe that the American people want more war. I'm not observing that even the Ukrainian people want war. The Israeli people, yes, there are always some, but for the most part, war is only good for a small group of people. Peace is always good for everyone. So, what can we do? Continually raise our consciousness. That's the best and most important thing we can do, because from a higher level, we can have much more creativity and much better solution creation. From a level of anger, frustration, we are reacting in the ways that they always wanted us to react. So that's the name of the game. And I've had this vision, and I shared this recently, that some of us will literally be surrounded by flying bullets, and we will use our innate power to neutralize the situation. At some point, maybe you, of course, you need to pick up a gun. I'm not saying that's not something that cannot happen, but we're at a juncture where we've never been before. This is the emergent consciousness. And that's what they're afraid of. They don't know how to deal with that. And if it rises above a certain level, they don't know how to control that. All right, my friends, this is the message for today. As I said, I'm not minimizing this. I'm not saying that they're not going to try to push this further, but it is up to us. It's always been up to us to get in control again and let higher consciousness be in charge. That's what we need to do. All right, my friends, we love you. We appreciate you, and we will be back with you again very, very soon. And right now, you could be only a few clicks away from experiencing something amazing, something that has changed thousands of lives all over the world. I'm talking about a high consciousness field similar to those at pilgrimage sites and sacred places. It's where people go to heal, to connect, and to become the best possible version of themselves. With FLFE, you can bring such a high consciousness field into your home right now. It's a spiritual quantum technology based on the work of Nikola Tesla. Better sleep, more energy, greater well-being, improved finances, electrosmog mitigation. These are only some of the things people on the FLFE service are experiencing. Try it now for 15 days completely free of charge, no credit card needed. Just click on a link down below to start your free, no strings attached FLFE trial right now.